Hi, everybody, and welcome back to yet another cracking edition of the Matt Brown Show. This is the Before the Book series where we are talking to CEOs and visionary business leaders all about their aspirations to become best-selling authors and really looking to explore the impact that being a best-selling author can have not only on their professional careers but also on their businesses. And with us in the hot seat today from a place that's usually hot, Miami. His name is Conor McGowan. He is the CEO of Brava Solutions. Conor, welcome to the show, dude.
Great to be here, Matt. Pleasure of having me on.
Yeah, man. So obviously the accent's a refreshing one. I usually have a bunch of Americans on here. So you're from Ireland. So what are you doing out in Miami?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's not many Irish here, unlike a lot of cities in the US. But I left Ireland about 10 years ago on a little adventure to a place called Bermuda. Ended up staying about 7 years in the Caribbean, and 3 years ago moved to Miami. All work related, been in the telecommunications and technology space, and now have the pleasure of leading a brilliant organization, Brava Solutions, headquartered out of Miami, but working all over the Caribbean, LATAM, and US.
Sick, man. So you're obviously the CEO of Brava Solutions. What's the elevator pitch? What are you guys actually doing?
We are the next generation solutions provider. So we are providing mobility services, cybersecurity services, and cloud services, which are often very complex in our customers' eyes. So our real mantra is simplifying business for our customers. We take the hassle out of IT, telecommunications, and cybersecurity, and we do it at pretty affordable costs and what we deem to be a pretty superior service to a lot of our competition.
Hmm. Fantastic. So how big is Brava Solutions?
Brava Solutions, we're currently at about 180 people, and they're based across US, Canada, the Caribbean, Guyana, and South America. Is our main hub. So about 180 people and growing.
Legendary. Tell me, why do you do what you do? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
Uh, I love I love two things. I love working with people, and I love problem solving. So working in telecommunications technology across probably 8 or 9 different countries gives you access to so many different cultures, so many different types of people, and of course, so many different types of problems. But again, we're the next generation solution provider, so that's kind of what we're in the business of doing. But
Yeah,
people will be the main driver. I love working with people. I get my
I
energy
understand.
from people.
I understand. How are you? Obviously, cybersecurity alone is a very competitive space. Everything's really hyper competitive today, as you know, especially in the US. How do you find, or how do you see the role of becoming a best-selling author? Using that to differentiate you and the company and kind of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, no, as we've discussed, Matt, I think it's taking a lot of hard learnings. I think where we are with Brava, I've been with the larger organization. We're owned by a company called ATNI. So I've been with that organization for 6 years. We've done some stuff brilliantly. We've done some stuff very, very wrong. We were too soon in some instances. We were too late in others. So really, where I'm excited about the kind of getting my own thoughts on paper and getting a book out there is just the learnings. And then in my personal life, I'm a certified and qualified coach, and I have a little LLC called Galoris Operations. So I'm trying to merge the best of both worlds. I kind of
Mm.
work outside of Brava, what I think is empowering people through coaching. So there's just a really kind of unique story there to tell on the Brava side, where we're at the cutting edge of technology. We've deep financial KPIs. We've lots of pressure on us all the time, but we're achieving them. And
Mm.
then on the coaching side is just the learnings from enabling people, understanding people, and probably my own journey of getting stuff wrong, being overly stressed at times, but now in a pretty good place.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the word failure because I literally wrote the book on failure.
Love it.
Yeah, it was a funny series I did. It was basically interviews with leaders like yourself, all about their biggest business blunders and kind of what they learned and so forth. So, obviously, learnings is a key thing for you. Impact is a key thing for you. Can you describe like a personal business experience where things became a blunder and kind of what you learned from that?
Yeah, I kind of did. I think I won't go into the specifics and name names, but I think there's two big learnings that would stick out in my head is launching business and services before really being ready to do so. So that's been one lesson to learn, is to have, I think what I'm really confident and I love about Brava, where we currently are, is we've a deep technical team of experts, we have a deep operational team of experts. So now the sales and marketing, which we are just doing the brand launch really this year, is a pretty exciting thing to do because we know the story matches the end result. So
Mm,
big learning in that, probably in previous companies and previous efforts, where it was get the brand out there, get the products out there, but not really be ready to deliver. And then I think probably the second most powerful message is probably sometimes okay is good enough, and don't let perfection get in the way of just getting by and doing what you need to do. Is sometimes in business we look at things at an annual or even at a 5 year projection, which is just always overwhelming. So breaking stuff down into
mm.
what is one thing I can do today. Great book. I think you've probably heard of it. Eat That Frog always pops into my head. What is one small impactful thing you can do each and every day, and watch that compound.
Mm. So, in terms of impact, then, what is the kind of impact that you hope to achieve by becoming a best-selling author? And like, who would your book be for? Would it be for employees? Would it be for customers? Would it be for general business leaders?
I think it would be towards general business leaders and people aspiring to be business leaders. Um, and the message in that is how difficult being a business leader can be, if you let it be, and sharing my thoughts and sharing learnings across the way. But also a big thing is um, understanding how people have been there before. A big part of my career has actually been mentorship from many different people who have taught me the way, taught me when I'm being naive, taught me when I'm being overly patient, underly patient. So I think just getting that message out there that you don't have to do it on your own. There's a massive community out there, and then just
Mm.
simple tricks of basically keeping well-being in your personal life top of mind is probably the most effective thing you can do as a business leader, because
Yeah,
otherwise the business will just tend to swallow you up.
absolutely. So, why coaching? Why does that specifically is something that you focus on?
Coaching came from a couple of things, really. I played sports, love sports. So I always played sports as a youngster, played sports till relatively recently. Coaching was one thing, both coaching sports and but also executive coaching popped in. So I was sorry to finish that was to keep me involved in sports. The second one was I've been lucky enough to have been coached, and just a transformational experience to go on over 3 or 4 years, to have someone you can go and have a conversation with that is not your family, is not your friend, is not your work team member. They've no skin in the game, they've no bias. They're just there to ask questions, potentially guide you in a couple of different directions. So it was probably my own transformative journey of working with a couple of coaches to said this would be quite a fun thing to learn how to do. So I use it obviously with my own team in Brava. Well, I hope I do. They tell me I do the odd time. But it's also something that when I look longer and towards the end of my career, I would love to do around consulting and coaching,
Mm.
maybe on a more full time basis. So lots of elements to it. But again, it's back to what I said at the start: getting to meet different people, hearing
Mm.
different people challenges, and hopefully giving some small nuggets to help them solve them.
Connor, what has stopped you in the past from writing a book?
I think the usual excuses. I don't have enough time. Will anybody read it? I'm too busy. So I'm at a place in my life here. I'm lucky enough to be happily married. Just had my first child's daughter, Nina, 6 weeks ago. So in a position now where it just feels like the right time. It's a big
Mm.
endeavor to take on, but lots of changing aspects in my life were saying if I don't do it now, I'll never do it. So that was kind of the driving force. But before it was all the usual excuses.
So, funny story. My wife's name's Nina.
Oh, there we go. There we are. Here we're brought together. Some magical forces bringing us together, man.
I know, right? I mean, come on, come on. Let's be honest. Connor, so if you were to imagine, in 30 days' time from now, or whenever the time is, and you could see your book on a bookshelf, what do you feel like the working title of your book is?
There's two things. So I think I don't really differentiate myself from Brava because myself and my team have worked so hard to do it. And one thing we're doing across the organization is just the Bravo way. And what the Brava way is the Brava way of selling. It means we want to sell very differently. The Brava way of operations, it means we want to show up for our customers very differently. The Brava
Mm.
way of care, it's going that extra mile. Even the Brava way of finance, it's actually listening to the finance team instead of shouting at them all the time about deadlines. So that would be the just a simple way to describe it. We're very proud of what we've done, and we've built something really special. We've built it across, so it would be that simple. It's the Bravo way.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've got a client. His name's Carl Ewing. So very highly educated, Harvard, MIT, all this kind of stuff, and he invented waterproof paper. Okay. So
Wow.
if you think about like everyone's perception of the print business, you know what I mean? Like, oh, newspapers are dead, and how innovative can a print company be? It's after all, you're just printing stuff. I mean, it's been around since the Gutenberg printing press. But you'll be very surprised to know, similar to what you're saying or describing, is the company's called TerraSlate. And when he was like, dude, I want to do a book, I'm like, okay, so what do you want to do the book about? And he was like, I want to, do a book about time hacking. So how do you actually buy back your time? So I'm
Wow.
like, cool, that's amazing. And, his audience is like business owners, entrepreneurs, and stuff like that. But really, the meat on the bone for Kyle is how innovative that print company actually is. It's like mind blowing. So, like, as we were getting into the process, similar to like the Bravo way, like TerraSlate's got a ridiculous amount of like very mature like systems and automation platforms and analytics divisions and stuff. It's like, fuck, why would you be so innovative as a print company? But it's kind of similar to what you're saying. It's this idea of like, well, how do we actually evangelize what we do as a company, as a culture, as a leadership team, and all this kind of stuff? And what's important about his particular book is not only is it going to make a significant impact, but also he's looking to exit at some point. So what he's doing is he's using his book as a tool to actually educate private equity firms about just how innovative they really are. Because if you send a one pager going, "Hey, we print waterproof paper," like some PE firm or investment principals at those PE firms, and in the US, just by the way, there's like 4,300 of these companies. They might just go, "You're a print company. We're not
Exactly.
doing that."
Yeah.
But when you think about it and when you get into the detail, it's actually a technology company like you guys.
Totally. Totally. And look, that's what we've had so many conversations. I don't think he'd mind me quoting us. Amilcar Torres, he sits across the hall from me here in Miami, our COO. And he's always reminding the team is that when we build products, the competitions will follow and build the same products. So it is that differentiation about how you show up for your customers, how you do things differently, how people feel about not just the brand, the organization itself. Do they show up with smiles on their faces, with their heads held high?
Mm.
So massively important and exciting. It's exciting just to put it down on paper.
Yeah. So how much would a book be like, kind of like a business card for your business?
It would be, I think it would be huge, and I think it'd be a bit unique, particularly in the territories we operate in. So I think it's very novel, very innovative thought. Hence, we're us thinking about doing it and moving forward towards doing it. And I think it's similar to the example you used there. Is how do we move away from old school 75-page PowerPoint decks, just word vomit on websites, videos that go on too long explaining what a technology does, to really
Mm.
saying is here's a group of people aligned technology to some human capital, and this is what we do. This is who we are.
Mm.
Work with us, don't work with us, but this is what we represent.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think to your point, like I think, and I know this actually to be true because my I read this book. It's my last bestseller. It took about 8 days from start to finish.
Eight
And the
days.
only
That's impressive.
dude, like anyway, that's a whole conversation for us another
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
But basically, I mean, I wrote that book for the same reason. It was kind of like, well, like, so we're in the influence business, obviously, and we work with CEOs, whatever, or visionaries to help them really just create impact through authorship. So, but I ran this series called Secrets of Influence, and the whole thing was about like what is influence, blah blah blah, and how do you leverage it, wield it, how do you cultivate it, facilitate it, whatever. And what I learned pretty quickly was, if you ask 10 CEOs like what's influence from your perspective, you'll get 10 different answers. And so, how do you sell something if no one can define it in a simple term? So, if you think about like a book is a book. But if you say what is influence, like, well, influence is like, there's so many different interpretations of that. And so, the only reason why I did this particular book, Secrets to Influence, was to help educate. Because if you can't drive the education needle in many cases, like people won't buy what you're selling, and people don't have the time to listen to an hour long podcast about you waffling on about what what's influence systems and stuff like this. But what they do have is time on a plane. So the idea is you create a book that's like something that's not like a Malcolm Gladwell 90,000 word monster thing, where it's like empirical evidence and blah blah blah. But it's something that's, especially if you're talking to general business leaders, it's like if I'm flying from New York to LA or from Denver to Florida or whatever the case is, like I can nail that book. You know what I mean? While I have dead time. Does it make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
And it's something that people like that. And it's funny. I landed a client through that book within the first 10 days. So basically, the backstory with that was his name's Matt Watson. He's a CEO of Full Scale. So they have like a massive dev shop out in the Philippines, 300 people. I think last year he had 4 companies that had either built, invested in, or acquired in the Inc. 5000. So he's a very difficult guy to influence. And so, I had him on the show and he's like, dude, what do you do? And I explained. And long story short, he said to me, well, I'm actually looking for an agency to help grow my business, whatever. So I'm like, cool. And I said, are you looking at other partners? He's like, yes. So there were 3 agencies in the mix, ourselves, 2 others. But along with the proposal, I actually said, dude, give me your address. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a copy of my book. And so about 3 days later, he was flying like wherever he was going. And 3 days later, he phones me. He's like, dude, this book is awesome. Like, I want you to be my guy. And that's what I mean about like influence, right? If you're able to capture the Bravo way and distill it in a way that's easily digestible, then it opens up like whole other opportunities that you wouldn't have been able to do before. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And the thing that pops up to my mind is that what myself and the team here is but when we decided to do Brava, and we essentially brought 6 different companies into one, and spent a lot of hard yards, long hours doing it. We actually sat in the Marriott here across the road in Miami. We brought about 25 people in. We talked about products, services, pricing, financial models, everything you do when you're talking about a company. Probably the most powerful thing we did was in the last 30 minutes, we built very quickly in the corner of the room on a little whiteboard a code of conduct. And it just had very simple stuff in it. It had show up for your customers, don't be afraid to ask for help, really the basics of working together and being different. And probably the
Mm,
most powerful moment is we all went up and signed it. All 25 of us in the room went up and signed it. And from that moment on, momentum snowballed. So I totally
mm,
agree with you. It's
mm.
it's real thought. It's also the uniqueness and probably the authenticity that comes from doing something like that. Just like you
Yeah,
mentioned, your book differentiating from a regular sales pitch.
absolutely. So, Connor, let's wrap this up. Like, what advice do you have to other CEOs, business leaders out there about, the Bravo way? Like, distill something for us, maybe one of your secrets, something that you've learned. Give our audience around the world like one piece of advice.
Oh, it's a tough question. I would say, very simply, respect everyone from regardless of what title or what role they play within the organization, and also put customers first. I
Mm,
think it's such a throwaway comment. You always hear customer centricity, customer success, but the big thing that I have learned the most from and will always keep top of my head is I'll always want to speak regularly to the people who interact with customers rather than always chatting to the senior managers and then
mm,
speaking with customers themselves.
mm,
That's where the nuggets of information come from. So it
mm,
really is that. It's remembering that, particularly as a CEO or senior leader, you could have 15 Microsoft Teams or Zoom meetings in a day and bounce from one call to another and talk about KPIs and talk about projects. But if you're not chatting to customers, it's very hard to make any decision that makes any sense.
mm. Sometimes I just feel like we overcomplicate things. You
Totally.
know what I mean?
Sometimes we talk about the customers with about 15 of us on a call who haven't spoken to a customer in 6 weeks. You know, we're
Yeah.
talking about them as
Yeah,
if
it's
they're
exactly.
fictional characters.
It's like old town rules, dude. If you imagine that you're like you own a butchery store, and then I see Connor walking down the high street, he hops off his horse. So I now know who you are, right? Because your kid plays baseball, or there's something that I know about you, and there's something familiar about you. And I think like it's like you're gonna come in every week for like this bunch of ham. But if I give you like a loaf of bread to go along with that ham, because I know you like, fucking whatever the type of bread is, well, it's this kind of relationship. And I don't know, like to your point, it's just about like first principles. Like some things just don't change. They
Totally.
accelerate, but
Yeah.
like if you get the first principles right, like then everything just takes care of itself. And I think we always, especially the visionaries, we always get like romanced about the new shiny stuff, don't we?
Oh,
Um, and
100%.
and we just forget about like doing the basics right. Get the
I think
fundamentals done.
100%. I think the other thing just that popped straight to my head. I consider my dog. This is a strange thing to say. I think consider my dog one of my best mates. So
Uh-huh.
the mornings I don't walk my dog and just have that 40, 50 minutes to think about stuff like you just said. It's generally a bad or stressful day. It's also just starting that day with what can I just go somewhere, do something for myself
Yeah.
and breathe for half an hour, 40 minutes to have that nugget there. And also
Yeah.
a good example, selling bread and ham to an Irishman is not difficult. Sandwiches as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like you should be the person your dog thinks you are.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Hey?
That hero.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brother. Well, listen, mates, congratulations on all your success, all the mergers, acquisitions, getting the Brava Solutions to where it is. And obviously wishing you and the team there all the very best of the future.
Brilliant, Matt. Thanks so much for having me on. Love the show.
Anytime, brother. Speak to you soon.
Cheers.
Everybody else, ciao for now.